Hey everybody, and welcome to part 2 of Finances 101 at Zion Lutheran Church. Again, I'm Pastor Kent Wilson, pleased to serve as a pastor of this wonderful community of faith. In part 2, we're going to be looking at the income streams that we have at Zion Lutheran Church, and there are basically 4 of them to the best of my knowledge, or at least 4 major ones. Let's begin with a general offering. So you might not notice, but that is an offering plate that I drew for your convenience up there. And so we obviously have whatever offerings come into the general fund of the church. Many of those will come in through the offering plate and are meant or intended for the general offerings of the church, which will be a separate video in terms of where that money actually goes. A second form of income stream, I indicated by an arrow, those are designated funds. So someone might make a contribution through the offering plate but have a note on it, this is to be used for this, or this is to be used for that. So that is something that would happen in terms of designated offerings that come in to the church in that way. A third disbursement, or a third form of income, which some folks are not aware of and is relatively new, beginning I believe in 2006 or 2007, has to do with foundation disbursements. We had a member who has since passed away, who upon, actually a couple, who upon their death designated, or I should say established a foundation of their own. And there are 8 different beneficiaries of that foundation, and Zion Lutheran Church is one. And the way that foundation is set up, to the best of my knowledge, is, and that's managed by people other than ourselves, but that foundation, they find the value of the investments of that foundation at the end of the year on December 31st. And whatever that is, 5% of that is dispersed among the 8 entities that are recipients of that foundation. Zion is one of those recipients, and so every January, for as long as that fund lasts, and it has every potential to last for a good number of years, I would think several decades, if not more, we receive a check from the foundation for what our share of that 5% of proceeds might be. In the time I have been here, that's completely dependent on the on how well the markets do, but that check has ranged from anywhere from $22,000 down to $14,000 in rough figures. So just depends what the markets are on December 31st. But since 2007 or 6, somewhere in there, we've been receiving that check in January, and we'll talk more about what happens with that in a little bit in another video. And then finally, we also have investment proceeds. So we have some CDs, as we mentioned, that make nominal amounts of interest. We have those CMOs, those collateralized mortgage obligations, which provide a modest form of income, not any great amount by any stretch of the imagination, but it all helps when it adds together. And then we have the endowment, which actually has a significant proceeds because of its size. And again, we'll talk more about the endowment in a future video and where those monies go, because they do not come into the general fund. So I want to make sure that's clear. And for the most part, though theoretically the foundation money could come in to the general fund, we have thus far designated it elsewhere. So we'll talk more about that in a future video as well. But in terms of income streams, we have general fund offerings, we have designated offerings that may or may not come directly through the general fund. We have the foundation disbursement that we get every January, and then we have whatever investment proceeds that we garner from our investments, whatever they may be. So this concludes part 2 of Finances 101 at Zion, and in our next video we'll look at the general fund offering and where those monies go and what they do. Thanks for tuning in. Hope to see you with the next installment.